Hello, so today I'm going to talk about time management. I got a request to do a video on time management. And I'm also though going to talk about energy management. And the reasoning for this is I focus much more with my clients on energy management than on time management. The reasoning behind this is because time is something that you can't control. 60 minutes is going to go by regardless of what you do, but you can manage your energy to get the most out of that time that you have. So I'm going to kind of do a blend here because obviously there are some basic things when it comes to, I guess, time management that are going to help you to be able to manage that time a little bit better. But I also find that a lot of high performing athletes just generally manage their time quite well because they don't have a lot of time for things. So when they have 60 minutes or an hour and a half to do homework, for instance, they generally are very focused because that's all the time that they have. A lot of the time, actually, time management becomes more of an issue when they're not doing their sport because now they have more time to complete tasks and they don't quite have that same focus because that time pressure doesn't exist anymore for them. But let's start with time management. Obviously, a big thing if you are an athlete or a student athlete in particular, that's really time management usually is a pretty big thing with student athletes. You really got to plan and do some pre-planning. You got to look at your schedule. You got to look at what does, let's say, the next week have in store for you. When are your games? When are your practices? What does your school schedule look like? What kind of homework or assignments or tests do you have coming up that you know in that moment? And obviously there will be things that will come up. And then where are you going to kind of put into place, where's my study time? Where's my practice time? Where's my, obviously dinner time? And kind of map that out for yourself with obviously having the flexibility that things are going to change and you have to be able to adapt on a day-to-day basis. But when you generally kind of create that plan and map it out, I found with the athletes that I do that with, that really helps them to feel a little bit more organized, a little bit more like they kind of are managing their time rather than things just kind of being thrown at them. And then obviously on a day-to-day basis, it's an important thing too. Look at what assignments, what homework do you have if that is the thing that you're having to do. And then kind of map out, okay, what assignments need to get done first, what is most important, what is, needs to be done right now, maybe for tomorrow. And then if I have, extra time, what kind of tests or assignments can I start to work on and kind of look at that way. And then another important strategy is when you've kind of mapped out what you need to do for that day, kind of cover everything up except for that one thing that you need to do next, because a lot of the time when we look at all the things we have to do, we can get overwhelmed. And as we get overwhelmed, then this impacts kind of this energy management that I'm going to talk about in a second, where now we're maybe more stressed, and that stress takes away from our ability to effectively get everything done that we need to get done and to focus during that time that we have. And then now we're taking longer to accomplish something than we otherwise would need to. So really about obviously mapping things out, but then bringing yourself to the here and now, really saying, okay, this is the only thing I need to be focusing on. This is the only task I need to be focusing on. And I'm just going to do this thing right now. And then when I'm done with this, I'll look at whatever that next thing is for myself to do. So as I said, those schedules and mapping things out, very, very important for time management. But as I said, a big thing to understand is that you cannot manage your time. 60 minutes is going to go by regardless of what you do. So it's really about how do you get the most out of that time. And obviously there are things that kind of disrupt our ability to get the most out of that time. And that falls more into energy management. How are we managing our energy to be able to focus effectively and to be able to be present and to do as much as we possibly can during that time? One of the big things that does that is obviously stress. When we look at things and we see all the stuff we have to do or worrying about not having enough time, then that stress and that worry itself almost creates that reality of not having enough time, because instead of just doing things, being as focused as we possibly can and maximizing the time that we have, we're now spending a good chunk of that time worrying and not really getting as much done as we otherwise could during that time. So being able to reframe and reshift how you look at time itself is really, really important for both, kind of this time management, energy management, and understanding that you have enough time that you will get things done, but you kind of got to obviously do some things to make sure you do maximize that time. And that is obviously exceptionally important. Other things that obviously help with energy management are some things such as sleep, eating, hydration. These are things that are very, very important because they give your brain the fuel to be able to focus effectively and to focus at a very high level, to get more done during a period of time, to really maximize that time that you have to get things done and to be as present as possible. And a lot of people I do get with school and sports, a lot of athletes don't get enough sleep. But getting as much sleep as you possibly can, making sure your body is properly fueled with the food and with the hydration is super important. I actually had this discussion with an athlete this past week, and it was more for their actual performance rather than time management. But we discovered that he wasn't performing in the manner in which he needs to or could perform, simply because he didn't fuel himself throughout the day. He wasn't eating in the amount and in the manner in which he needs to in order to be able to perform. So he was as focused as he possibly could be given how much energy he had, but because his energy and his focus wasn't where it needed to be, his performance had dropped, and he didn't understand why it had dropped. And it was a simple solution: just get more food into your system. He knows exactly how much food he needs to be eating throughout the day, and that is an exceptionally important thing. Another thing that can definitely help with kind of this energy management, time management topic is meditation. And it's a hard thing, because obviously if you're having issues with finding time for things, to add another thing in can definitely be difficult. But meditation is so beneficial in so many different ways. Obviously learning to be able to be present, which is huge for getting a maximum amount of the time, or maximizing your time. And it's also, though, when you actually are meditating regularly, you're calmer, you see things more clearly. So all of this information that's coming at you, it's almost like you can sort through it much easier, much calmer. And I actually experienced this about a month ago when I was getting ready to go somewhere on a trip, and I was going for a lot longer than I usually go. So there was a lot of things I had to think about and get in order, both for when I arrived there, because I was going to have to get into quarantine because I was going to Canada, and then also for just, my house and my home and things that have to get done. And I was able to be much more calmer when realizing all these things and kind of moving through all these things, this to-do list that I needed to do. I was much calmer than I've been in the past. Usually it would very much stress me out or give me a lot of anxiety, just dealing with all of these things that have to get done. And I attribute this to meditation, because that's been a big thing for me through this whole COVID thing, is really doubling down on my meditation, meditating a lot more than I usually do. I was pretty good on a daily basis, but I almost doubled and tripled it up sometimes, depending on what was going on each day. So meditation, while it's hard to add something else in there, it can be as simple as adding that 5 minutes in there, just to help to get into a habit of starting to meditate. Because the thing that I see with a lot of athletes is, with time management and energy management, is you're waiting for this time to get created to now add in these important things, whether it's more sleep, meditating, eating healthy, whatever it might be, where you have to kind of do those things first to then get that more time, because you're more effective with your time, you're more efficient with your time. So you can't necessarily maybe make a full switch, but can you get another 15 half hour of sleep? Can you kind of carve out 5 minutes of meditation to start off with for a while, before you start to really kind of get into this rhythm and like doing it, and maybe then starting to add more and more time. So those are just some suggestions on both kind of time management as well as energy management, because they kind of go hand in hand. Any questions, feel free to reach out.